Welcome back to episode 88 of the Auld Triangle podcast with me, Ian O'Neill, Andy Stevenson and Caoilte Barra to take you through all the latest news in the world of Irish mixed martial arts. We're delighted to be here. We're delighted to tell you about our guest this week. You've probably seen it already. Brian, the Pikeman Moore, will join us for a career retrospective. One of my favourite interviews that I've ever done here as well. Brian, obviously a legend of Irish mixed martial arts, announced his retirement a couple of weeks ago. We were delighted to have him on just to talk back over his career. We'll bring you that in just a little bit. But how are the lads doing before we get into the action? You keeping well, Andy?
Two Fat Ladies and Andy Stevenson, episode 88.
Where is that coming from, Stevenson? Where is that coming from?
As a bingo reference for anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. What was it? Legs 11. Switch through. Yeah, I like a bit of bingo every now and again. Not too bad. I actually went home. The last time I was home, it was actually around this time last year. I got married. It's crazy to think I'm almost a year married now. But I went back home and they do have bingo in my local bar, Mara's
bingo
bar.
Loco, kind of thing.
No, just normal bingo, just regular, no, none of that fancy stuff that they do in the bingo.
Traditional
loco.
Good stuff.
Just traditional, the fucking basket, the balls, and someone calling out numbers on your marking cards. But anyway, long story short, I kind of had a stark contrast to reality to traveling back home to Kilkenny, and I remember I would have had many busy Saturday nights and Sunday nights out on the town in Kilkenny, and then went home playing bingo instead. I'm like, times are changing, lads. I'm quietening down in my old age, but won a couple of lines. Did well overall. But
did a few lines.
No, not really. Which is something. No. There might be somebody on the scene that might be indulging in that kind of activity. It was definitely not me, Andy. Moving on swiftly from that, Caoilte, you're keeping well. Sidetracks. That's what we're going to call Andy now. Sidetrack Stevenson. That's what we're going to call it. You keep well, Caoilte.
I'm flying it. Busy weekend watching fights and the All Ireland.
Yeah.
Which
shout out Andy Hickey.
That's it now. Up riding, as he says. Oh no! Shout out Andy Hickey. Shout out Will Fleury, big Tipperary man now.
Yeah,
come on now.
Shout out Will Fleury as well, who buys if they're not drunk, if they're not hammered drunk now at this stage, and if they're not still drinking, obviously we're recording this Sunday a little bit just after the All Ireland, but they should be still drinking by the time this comes out anyway. If they're anyways.
So Will Fleury had a photo of himself on top of the Table Mountains in Cape Town, South Africa, in a tip jersey. So
there you go.
He's obviously celebrating from afar.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously he was over there for Frans Mlambo's fight. He's returned to PFL. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. But yeah, I guess we want to start off at the Indico and the O2 in London. That's where we had the Battles of the Hill. The King of the Hill championship was up for grabs. Leon Hill defeated Stephen Hill. It was Leon's first fight in 14 months, coming in there after a pretty long layoff, lads, and I have to say it looked absolutely sensational in there. We know what to expect from a guy like Leon Hill coming in, and that's entertainment, that's forward movement, that's viciousness and attack-minded approach, and that's exactly, Andy, what we got against for Leon when he went in there to step to fight Leon or Stephen Hill. There's too many Hills fighting here, lads. It's confusing. But you know what I'm saying, Andy.
Yeah, it was a brilliant return. Look, it was brilliant to see Leon Hill back fighting up at welterweight now as well, which is, he looked fantastic at the weight class. He looked like he had a lot of energy and really put on an impressive performance to return to action. I think it was his first fight in about 15 months maybe, or in and around that, and made a statement in his return. Obviously, we could probably chat a bit more about the fight itself. We got the finish, made a strong statement after the fact. He's calling for Contender series and for bigger opportunities and all this stuff. So it seems like he's really kind of returned to action, as chomping at the bit to make up for lost time. Albeit, 15 months, not the longest layoff in the world, but still, when you're early in your career, like that is, it's probably felt like 2 or 3 years to him while he's been on the sidelines.
Yeah, 100%. Caoilte, the performance itself, it didn't really, match a performance that you would think that he was away for 14 months. He looked sharp. He looked in control all of the fight as well. And dominant in the striking and in the grappling departments. Wore down Stephen Hill over the course of 2 rounds. and ended up finishing him with some ground and pound. What did you make of the performance, his approach in the fight? All action, as we said at the start of the analysis from Leon.
Yeah, he was brilliant. The striking and just the way he wore him down, picked away the shots, and it was clinical overall, to be honest, because the approach and the way, I think it was at round 2 at that point, he knew he'd beaten of him, and he knew there was like a fit. It's like when he smelled the finish, he turned it on then, and he was playing with him at times. He looked like he was having fun in there. He had that little slap at one point as well. I loved it. Some of the striking he was displaying was brilliant. I think he got comfortable after that first round, and then he just turned it on. Really good performance, and just another finish to add to that resume that he has. And if you're looking at a resume like that, you just I was looking at his topology, just finish. And I know he lost one via finish, but someone like that, there must be action. That's the way I look at it now, especially now after that fight.
100% finish rate, Andy, is what Leon Hill has. And I mean, in terms of what's next for him, when you see his record and you see, him finishing all of his fights, it ticks off a couple of the boxes of maybe from what the UFC brass or the matchmakers may be looking at in terms of maybe going to the Contender series. Obviously, the move up to welterweight may open up an opportunity for him to possibly fight for the welterweight championship. Justin Burlinson now holds that belt as well. Is that a fight, that you could see happening in Dublin in the RDS when that show goes down? What next, all into account, Andy, do you think it should be for Leon Hill?
Yeah, I mean, what's next? I don't know, but he's certainly opened himself up to a lot of possibilities here. As you mentioned, he's 8-2 now, 100% finish rate. He is the type of fighter that the guys in the UFC be looking for. Will he have not fought since May 2024? Obviously, he's back now. Will he get that call? I don't know. He's definitely putting his best foot forward, and it's very interesting to see now, how he slots into that welterweight division. Obviously, Justin Burlinson's won the title. James Sheen, I'm sure, will be looking to get a crack back at that one. So I don't know. He may have to get a win if before getting back to the title. Although I thought he was kind of beating the brakes off Justin Burlinson up until he wasn't obviously in that fight. You also have guys like Stephen Clancy Jr., absolute phenoms that are coming up. So there's loads of options there.
Clancy, is it?
Yeah, Sean Clancy Jr., isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of options there, a lot of interesting options, I think, in that welterweight division. But I think I know he's calling for, the Contender series, but to be fair, he seemed to be he spoke with, I think it was Rob Smith Media after the fight, and he was talking about all the different options that were kind of out there, and he was just kind of saying yes to everything. He was like, yeah, I want to fight. I'll fight for the title. I'll fight, Sean Clancy Jr. I'll fight, for Dana White's Contender series. So I think the main thing is activity now. I think he's chomping at the bit to get back in there, calling for the September Dublin show as well, which obviously we are recording this on a Sunday, and there'll probably be a million fight announcements over the course of the next few days. So we may be slightly outdated. But I think we're going to start seeing some fights announced. I mean, I actually don't want to. I'm going to throw this out there. I don't want to see Leon Hill versus James Sheen for whatever reason. Usually, I'm all about.
Are you feeling okay, Andy?
I'm shocked.
I know.
Check that man's temperature.
I don't know if that makes sense for
No, I agree. I agree. I
get it.
But,
I don't think it is. I think what you said there is one thing that I'd like to kind of touch on is, I think, activity and establishing himself at 170. Look, he's flirted with 155. He's flirted with 170. He seems happy. He looks good at 170. So, like you said, Andy, I think it's just about getting out, getting the reps, and if he stays doing what he's doing, which I think he's well capable of doing, those opportunities are going to come, whether it be Contender series, whether it be straight to the UFC. But activity is very, very important. For Leon Hill moving forward. Adam Shelley also fought on the card. Caoilte, you had some thoughts?
Can I throw a little name into the hat who I'd love to see him fight in Dublin? Is just for entertainment purposes, I would love to see him fight O'Meal Brown at welterweight.
Ooh, that's a spicy
and
one.
I think that would guarantee a title shot with a win there.
Yeah. Well, it's got, look at, if he does remain at Cage Warriors, it's got to be, but maybe one more and then a title shot. So that would be a perfect.
Is O'Meal still at welterweight? I can't remember now.
I thought O'Meal moved down to lightweight for his last fight.
No, he was. You're right. He was at welterweight as last one, but he moved in between, didn't he?
Moving up. So you have two fighters with similar trajectories there, moving up, moving down. Let's see who's the best at 170. I like that one, Quill. She always throw a diamond out there now to us every now and again. It's lovely. But Adam Shelley, as I was saying, was also fighting on the card. Quilsha wasn't his night. Took the fight on 10 days' notice. Couldn't really get going in the fight. What I kind of said was that he looked like a guy who took the fight on short notice. It just kind of couldn't get going. You have to start strong against a guy like Tariq Pell. Pell put the pressure on, landed a couple of nice shots, took the fight down, got the tap. What was your thoughts on obviously it was a disappointing result for Adam Shelley and, taking a fight on 10 days notice. I mean, yeah, he did well to get there, get the weight down. And, I thought he landed a couple of good shots early days, but it was the of Pell really that got him moving on the back foot that he just could not get any momentum going after a pretty good start.
You put it well there, just couldn't get going. I think he had those kicks early and they looked sharp. I thought, okay, we might see him continue this and they pull off some keep range and use those kicks and use that range. But he just couldn't, the pressure, he just couldn't get going at all. And Pell was relentless. He was in his face. He was nonstop. You could tell he was through a full training camp. He was raring to go. And yeah, Adam Shelley just couldn't get going, and it just wasn't his night. Fair play for taking it on short notice, but it's a tough one. One of those. It's a lesson, as we hear Brian Moore say later in the episode. But we'll see what happens next. But because that's a very tough fight on short notice. But couldn't really get going at all.
Yeah, so a mixed bag of results for the Irish, obviously, at that Cage Warriors 192 show. Obviously, Trevor McKengo was supposed to fight on that card. That his Cage Warriors debut was cancelled, unfortunately. Last time we were on, it was up in the air. We were unsure if that was going to happen or not. It did not happen. I would imagine they'll be looking to put Trevor on the September card in the RDS. I think that would be a wise move there, and we will look forward to that if it does happen as well. Man, Andy, I want to go over to talk to you about Gerard Burns' fight at Brave CF 97, which took place in Bulgaria on the same day as Cage Warriors. He stepped in to take on Alison Ochoa. Won the fight for unanimous decision. Lots of things to talk about in this fight, really. I think the first thing that we have to talk about was the massive weight miss that Alison Ochoa
kilos over.
Yeah, four in particular. I think it was 4 kilos over. And I guess I'll throw this one to you. Where do we get in this kind of scenario where there's no conversation here happening with Gerard's team over, a possible miss of weight? Because when you're 4 kilos over, it's not as if, you're 1 or 2 pounds over here. You're going to know pretty early. And I feel that, there's a little...
Do you mean like his opponents letting them know? Or what?
Yeah, I think, are Brave going to touch in with each opponent, see, hey, how's your weight going? Is everything going okay? I would think, you should be doing that as a promotion. On fight week, you might do a fight week weight check-in or something like that. I guess where I'm going with this one, Andy, is that Gerard Burns was forced to cut weight. He himself, after the fight, said that this was one of the most difficult weight cuts he had. He had to do it on his own. Obviously, his team got a little bit over there a little bit later, and he did the bulk of the cut on his own. It drained him. It looked like it drained him in the fight, if I do say so myself. And then Alison Ochoa, basically to me, probably to me, and this is pure speculative, would appear to me he didn't really attempt to make weight at all. This took the fight on 4 weeks' notice, but still, it didn't look like. I
mean, the commentators basically said, commentators are gonna be in the know more so, like their event staff who are around, and I believe, I can't remember if it was Phil Campbell or if it was the other commentator, I can't remember now, but they basically said, did he really?
Yeah, did he really? Was questions asked, and they rightly highlighted that. And why do I bring that up first? Because I think it played a pivotal role in how the fight played out. In terms of
advantage.
A massive unfair advantage, and Burns did look like it was a tough weight cut. He didn't look as energized or as explosive in this fight. Now and we're saying all this, he went up and picked the unanimous decision win. We'll talk about that decision as well. But talk us through the fight. It was a really close fight. I'll let you talk us through the fight first, Andy, and we can maybe talk about the result and the judging after the fact.
Yeah, like it was a really back and forth fight. I thought the first round, so Burns kind of got an early takedown, took Ochoa down, tied him up, landed a beautiful elbow, and then got the body lock takedown. He also landed a lovely knee to the head just before he kind of took him to the ground. And from there, like I thought the first round he was bullying Ochoa is the way. Like I was kind of like, Jesus, like he's really got kind of like not only a strength advantage, but he was using his technique well, his positioning well to just kind of dominate Ochoa in the grappling. He at one point there was a lovely clinical moment where he was in side control for a lot of the time, and he had Ochoa up against the cage, and he was kind of looking for a head and arm choke, but he was on the wrong side, and so. What was it? I think it was Ochoa kind of like booked him to try and like sweep and to create a bit of space to scramble up, and Burns literally just used it. He's like, oh, here's a bit of space. Ochoa kind of moved slightly more in towards the cage, and Burns just clinically took that inside space right up against the cage and locked in the head and arm choke. Now Ochoa did a brilliant job of getting out of there, and he got to his feet. There's a kind of brief exchange towards the end, but that was really the story of that first round. So I thought that was a clear 10-9 to Gerard Burns. The second and third rounds were a lot more back and forth. I thought Ochoa really came on in the second round. He was now both lads were landing. Gerard landed some lovely shots of his own, but I just felt like Ochoa was landing the cleaner work. At one point in the second, Gerard had a beautiful guillotine attempt that looked like it was on. Really tight squeeze. Ochoa did get out of it. I'd say that was kind of the biggest moment for Burns in that second round. But after getting out of it, he escaped. He kind of had Burns up against the cage. He kind of caught the foot and trapped him against the cage and just landed a lot of shots. And I thought that the work that Ochoa did on the feet, I thought it was more impactful overall than the guillotine attempt from Burns. And then the third round, it seemed that both lads were fairly tired, to be honest. Like they were fighting hard still, but they were both kind of, you could tell that the fight was kind of wearing on each of them. Burns had a good bit of kind of control time as well, but I think Ochoa was just landing the cleaner shots. At one point, there was not a low blow, an illegal shot from Ochoa where he kind of Burns had looked to grapple, but Ochoa had put kind of secured in a front headlock, and then as they were coming up, he landed one shot where I think Gerard had his hands on the ground, so it was illegal.
Yeah, that was a legal blow, yeah.
But then I think Gerard Burns' knee dropped to the ground, which obviously made it an illegal shot. Now, it was very difficult to see on the broadcast because the camera angles just were not. It was even the commentators were kind of, explaining that, I guess, to the watching crowd as well.
The ref did a good job, I think, to notice it and obviously handled it as well, which came by Ochoa getting a point taken for the illegal blow as well. I thought that was all overall a good decision by the referee, kind of through where the fight was going to go up into the air at that point as well, considering I feel, and I think, you've broken it down excellently. At this stage, we were at Gerard Burns winning the first round, we're at Ochoa winning the second round. So round 3, as this happens, the fight is well up in the air.
Completely up in the air. But Ochoa landed some really lovely shots after that. I feel like he kind of picked up the pace after getting the point deduction. Some heavy elbows. The fight did end with Burns kind of being on top. He was landing some kind of like, not pot shots, but like, little kind of shots, not hugely impactful ones against the cage. So, I thought that we were going to a draw, to be honest. I think the commentators mentioned that as well. I was expecting a draw to be read out. Now, Reddit, close. It's not like all the rounds were, well, actually, no, the first round was pretty clear. The second round.
The first one, I think the first round was close in regards to, there was minimal damage landed from both sides. I think Gerard landed a couple of shots on top, but I would deem
the head and arm choke, though.
The head and arm choke and all of that top control and that pressure for sure, for me, was enough for Gerard to kind of take that first round, no problem whatsoever.
Yeah, and then I think the second, I'd say the third round was actually probably the clearest round for Ochoa, in my opinion. And I think the second is, it's, I guess, if you score the guillotine attempt, I just thought that the strikes from Ochoa were more impactful in the second. But I can understand it if someone, made the argument that, the guillotine was outweighed it. But I thought it was 29-28
I think
Ochoa.
how quickly Ochoa got out of that choke attempt told me it wasn't. What do you think, Caoilte, about that sequence?
Yeah, like, I can see an argument. I'm in agreement. I thought it was a draw going into it. It's the only round I could see you could throw up in the air and be like, okay, and try and understand where the decision came from. That choke was probably the difference maker with that second round of like, okay, are they going to score it for Gerard Burns or is it going to go the other way? I thought it was deeper, and I thought it was deeper than maybe you would most would have thought from looking at it, but maybe not. But yeah, I do think the strikes afterwards were more impactful. That would have won Ochoa the round. It's a toughie though.
I hate how Brave don't. Oh, actually, sorry, I'm gonna take that back briefly because I don't know if they do this for every single fight, but or I don't remember if they do or not. But I hate when promotions generally, and this happened also at PFL in Africa for some of the fights, not all the fights, where they don't call out the scorecards. So it's just, you're just saying, oh, unanimous.
Massive confusion. Like, we don't know what swung or where the judges got the unanimous decision out of here. You would imagine maybe it was they scored round ones and rounds two, but we didn't see the scorecards. We asked to see the scorecards. They're not available. They're not there for us to kind of assess or anything like that. But in terms of what I seen, what Andy and Caoilte are talking about the fight, I feel a draw probably would have been the correct result as well, with Burns taking round one, Ochoa taking round two, Ochoa taking round three as well, but with the point deduction, it made it a 9-9 round. And there you go, 1 round apiece, and the draw in the third round gives us a majority draw.
Yeah, and in fact, like, it was a clean knee, like it was illegal, but like, an impactful knee where, okay, and then he pours it on and lands a lot of our shots, so you never know like what way it goes. So I think that I don't have any point deduction either. But look,
good fighter, though. I don't want to take away look, we talked about the weight miss and everything like that. We know how good Gerard Burns is. It was a real tough test for Gerard Burns that he had to get over here. Ochoa is no joke.
And it was a fucking war. Like, when you saw the two of them after the fact, like, Gerard had a big kind of cut in his eye. Ochoa could literally barely stand.
Barely stand.
So, when you're talking about damage as well, like, it's not Gerard Burns put a lot of damage on this guy as well. But look, sometimes you need a bit of luck or a bit of the rub of the draw to go your way in MMA. And we've now got Gerard Burns on a 6-fight winning streak. He's undefeated in Brave. He's now 7-1, and he's well on his way. So it'll be very interesting to see, what comes next. Obviously, he's under contract with Brave. I know we heard him kind of Phil Campbell put it to him in the cage after the fact. You've been calling out, Mohamed Mokaev. You kind of referenced the fact that Mokaev had retired from MMA to go to karate combat, and that he didn't know what was going on there, but that he's still, pursuing this fight. So there's options there for Gerard Burns. I think he's moving towards, title contention within Brave, and then the question, the age-old question that we have for every single fighter now who's, I guess, not in the PFL under contract is, is this fighter an option for the likes of a Contender series? And at 7-1, he's got I think 4 finishes to his name. Like, he's another guy who you never know could get a call, or maybe 1 fight away or 2 fights away, or
yeah, for sure. I think, look, at obviously Mokaev is there, and there was talks of that after the fight, but I think what you said, Andy, is probably the best route for Gerard Burns right now, is trying to get to the Contender series, because with all due respect to Gerard, I think if you put him in there with Mokaev now at this early stage of his career, I just don't think it's going to go well. Like, Mokaev is coming off, wins over Manuel Cape, and that's, top 5, top 3 level competition as flyweights inside the UFC. It was only, the circumstance of events that sees him out there as a somewhat free agent now, possibly fighting with Brave. But, whilst the records might be close to each other, I think the level that Mokaev is currently at, I just don't think Gerard is there, without all due respect. And it is a fight with Mokaev right now at this stage of his career a good idea? I'm not sure. Am I right or wrong in saying that, lads? Would you agree?
It'd be a monumental step up when you're like, we're talking about, will he go to the Contender series? If you're going in against Mokaev next, you're going in against a guy who was talked about as the next UFC title contender.
You're going 100%. You're going in there with a top 5 to top 3.
It would be a huge step up. Now the lads in FAI will turn around and say, well, you's all doubted us with Paul Hughes, and look at what
true that. But, so I'd love to be. I'd love to be wrong with that.
I think your perspective on that is entirely fair, Ian.
Yeah, what about you, Quilsha? Am I talking cray or what are you thinking?
No, I think you're fairly bang on with that one. Like it's you need a bit of a build up to going into fighting Mokaev. Like the guy was tipped to be fighting for the title before he got released. It's the step up is different levels altogether, and I think you need to gradually build up to that as they do in the UFC. In the UFC, you need to build up to be fighting top 10. Maybe not as much in flyweight, but but the other side of it is if you take it and you win, all of a sudden, like it's monumental. It's monumental in the scene. You go from like just, I guess, another flyweight on the European scene to you're the first person to beat Muhammad Mokaev. And to be the first person to beat Muhammad Mokaev in MMA, it's a hard opportunity to pass up. So I can 100% see why you'd back yourself, why you'd call for that fight, why you take that fight, and see how you get on. Because the opportunities that you could get, regardless of if you win or lose, as long as you put on a good performance, are probably pretty good.
Indeed. Interesting to see what is next for the FAI, man. Looking forward to it. Always in fun, exciting fights too. So great win there for Gerard Burns there at Brave. And the last one before we head over to our interview with Brian Moore, we want to talk about Frans Mlambo. He returned to the PFL Africa after a brief layoff. He fought Simbrashe Hinoka in the bantamweight PFL Bantamweight Africa tournament this past weekend. Didn't go his way. I feel it was unlucky, the fight played out into similar enough circumstances really that we've seen some other fights play out for Frans Mlambo. Had his moments on the feet, jumped to guillotine, found himself on the back. Hinoka kind of went to work early days in round 1 and then, went on to kind of dominate rounds 2 and round 3 as well upon taking a unanimous decision on the judges' scorecards. I think, Frans did have a moment maybe towards the end of the fight where he might have, maybe let go a little bit more if he looked back upon it, but it wasn't to be for Frans Mlambo. Great to see him back, that being said, but result did not go his way.
Yeah, it just seemed to be maybe a little bit too late and just didn't really have an answer for the grappling of Hokonya. There was a point deduction as well for kind of elbows to the back of the head at one point as well. Yeah. So the scorecards ended up being quite wide in the end. But yeah, look, it's just I don't know. It's like Frans obviously coming out of retirement. I would say for this one, right? He retired because it was just and it was the first time fighting in I think 18 months or 19 or 20 months even. The cancelled fight there last year against Luke Shanks.
Taking this on short notice.
There was like a visa issue or something, wasn't it? If I recall correctly, with that one. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so like it's unfortunate. I'd be interested to see what happens next with Frans and PFL. Obviously, this one was like the PFL Africa first event, so it was the tournament. So obviously he's no longer in that. But I'd be interested to see if they can get him kind of active or maybe fighting more of those Africa shows. Maybe just from the perspective, there might be more opportunities.
Cool, the Africa show was pretty cool. They had like dancers and other kind of stuff, and it was pretty it was cool.
Brilliant atmosphere.
Yeah, like they got to cheer out saying that she got a rapturous applause coming in.
She's like, that was the best walkout I've ever had.
Yeah, and fair play. No, I think BFL did a great job in bringing the show over there, and it's nice to see little changes like that in the old MMA sphere as well, where we kind of can get the same thing over and over again. It's cool to see them over in Africa. Unfortunately for Frans, it didn't work out, and it'll be interesting to see if he does, step back in there again or what's next for the Black Mamba. I'm sure we'll find out pretty soon. A man that Frans Mlambo would have trained with through many years and many training camps, I would assume, and that's Brian Moore, who's going to join us right now just to talk about his career, having announced his retirement from mixed martial arts a couple of weeks ago, one of the OGs of Irish mixed martial arts. Let's head on over to the Brian Moore interview right now. We are now joined by a man who, in the last couple of weeks, announced his retirement from the sport of mixed martial arts, a man that was the first Irishman to headline a Bellator event. He also holds a record of 13 fights, the joint most amount of fights in Bellator history. Holds that record with Sinead Cavra, a proud family man, a proud Wexford man, and a proud Irishman, the Pikeman. Brian Moore joins us today to chat about his career and his decision to hang up his gloves as well. Brian, thanks a lot for taking the time to talk to us today. We're all very excited to kind of sit down and do an old career retrospective here from your with you today.
It's great to be on again, lads. So thanks very much as always.
No worries, Brian. We were
surprised you're having an old fucking retired fella on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we can get to the old retirement and the decision and everything, Brian. I guess, we were chatting about, your visits to Kilkenny there before we came on there. And I wanted to kind of start off this one because I remember I'm going to take you back to 2008, I'd say 2009. And there's a fond memory I have from when I was training in Top Pro in Kilkenny. And that was one of the first times you came into the gym. And I think it was you, it was Levi Keogh, and it was Carl Holmes as well. Yeah. That came into the gym for the first time. And we had been there training for a little bit at that time. And you lads came down just to do a bit of work there, with sparring with us as well. I remember having a chat with you before because we, as back then, there wasn't that much people doing it. And to have new people come into the gym at that time, it was always exciting it was exciting before the fact. I can talk about after the fact as well. It wasn't as exciting. But Brian, you came in and I remember chatting to you. And back then, MMA wasn't that as popular as it is now. It wasn't that common to watch it, let alone fight it. And I had asked you, I remember we were just about to go and do a few rounds together, and I asked you, well, have you done fighting for long? You said, no, not really. You were into Muay Thai and you're into Gaelic games, Gaelic football and hurling or whatnot. And I guess the question I'd have for you then is that if you can take yourself all the way back there, what was it that really sparked your interest in mixed martial arts and for you to kind of make the move over from Gaelic games, maybe to compete in combat sports and then move on to mixed martial arts after the fact?
Yeah, I seen it on the TV and thought it was outrageous. I just couldn't believe that this was a sport. And I was always I always loved competition, always, since I was 5. Even now I'm going to be competing in other things, but once I seen it, I just said I'm not going to be a spectator. I'm going to be a competitor in this. And I had done a little bit of Muay Thai then because I was kind of just too nervous to jump into just MMA. I wanted to have a little bit of a background, but I only done about 3 months of it before I found a small little MMA gym. And it was a very, very small MMA gym. So that's actually why I ended up going to Kilkenny to go up for a couple of spars. It was funny, actually, when I had this conversation with a friend of mine recently. Me and my wife met in Waterford, and she's from Cork. I'm from Wexford. Fell in love after about 2 months, and after we finished college, we were obviously going to stay with one another and have our life together. And we were talking where are we going to move? We're going to move to Cork. We're going to move to Wexford. And I said, listen, I am heavily involved in GAA. I played county up to 17 and 18. I was playing with my club. And St. Anne's, and I said, listen, I'm staying in Wexford, will you come with me? Yeah, no bother. So she packed her bags, we moved into a place, and within about a month I was like, I'm not doing GA anymore. I'm doing MMA. She was like, what? So, that's just the way it happened, but it'll kind of just show that's how much of a severe turn that took and how much it took over my life, MMA did, because I just loved it. I thought it was amazing, and I was like, I have to do this, So I went on boards.ie to see was there any fights anywhere, because there was ones in Galway and things like that, and then I'd seen that there was a fight night coming up in Wexford, and I was like, oh, I'm going to have to do this. I had 3 MMA league fights now at this point, which is no headshots. And sure, Miles was holding the event. He was only happy to get some Wexford lads who could sell tickets. Didn't really matter how long we were at it or nothing else.
Exactly.
So I ended up going against them. I remember like it was grand. I was like, I'm a bit too inexperienced for this, like, you know. So I know it's grand. You're gonna be fighting another guy who's 0-0, and I was like, oh, sure, that's grand. Week and a half out, and Miles rang me. He goes, listen, I got some bad news. The guy who you're fighting is after pulling out. And I was like, oh, fuck it. You know, I had a couple of 100 tickets sold, and he goes, don't worry, I have a replacement for you. And I was like, grand. He goes, look at this guy now. In fairness, he's fought professionally, but he's going to go back down and fight amateur for you. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. So it was Alan Duffy, who was very good from SPG. They ended up winning that fight, but like that'll just kind of show you how wild the scene was, where you could fucking be an amateur and fighting a pro, you know what I mean? But that's actually where I met John Cavan, so I ended up in SPG. So it all worked out, I suppose.
Yeah, it did. And back then, Brian, I think so that people can kind of understand the scene, you know, we were training for mixed martial arts, but that Wexford show in particular in White's Hotel, I remember it. It was labelled as extreme cage fighting. That's what it was back then, and it was pretty extreme, as you said. It was, you know, as you said, rightly labelled before, the Wild West days. And you know, I think down in that, you know, I have fond memories of that night. I'm sure you do as well. But you know, that kind of forged your path with the support that you had down there. It was actually, you know, it worked out probably in some way as well for you to be able to compete at Wexford from the early days and kind of build up that support. And I remember there in White's Hotel a couple of nights. You fought a couple of nights there too, I think, if I remember correctly. I fought on that one in February, and then you fought again. You won a title in White's Wexford one time as well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, well, I fought Alan Duffy the first night at amateur, and I had my second pro fight there against Gary Morris back in the day, and he had like I think he was 8-7. He was quite experienced, and it was good to fight someone that little bit more experienced as well. Yeah, like it was. I kind of wish I kind of cherished that a little bit more, because I only had 2 fights in Wexford. Obviously, lads travelled up to Dublin when I was fighting, but it was just cool to have it in my hometown. And then, like, as soon as I started fighting on bigger shows, I was like, I'll never get that opportunity again now. It was not, the venues were very small. They're grand for little kickboxing shows and whatnot, but you know, for MMA shows, once I kind of got onto the bigger scenes, like, I was never going to happen again. So I was kind of thinking, you know, I probably should have taken it in more, but you couldn't really, because you were so fucking terrified. You didn't want to think of it, you know. You just wanted to fight and kind of just focus on that rather than focusing on everything around it. You know what I mean? But I've obviously had a lot of time to think since retiring, and like, it's funny that you mentioned Kilkenny, but that was the first bar I actually ever had, was up in Kilkenny. And
really?
Yeah, I love this story because my uncle was in the army in the barracks down in Kilkenny, and he'd be going up and down, and he'd be telling me stories about a friend of his called Vinny DeRuscio. And I would have heard of these stories since I was like 10, 11, before I would have had any experience at all with any, you know, he was just telling me how great this kickboxer was. And I was like, oh, cool, you know, who's this? But I get a cool name and all this. So I had my very first spar in Kilkenny. And it was only kickboxing, no takedowns. Grant, this lad beat the piss out of me. Like, I mean, fucking hell. He had me doing anything he wanted to me. Do you get me? But I hung in there. I'm tough. I hung in there. That was grand. I was like, I remember thinking, I will never let that happen to me again, ever. I felt helpless. I felt like a lamb. And that's when I really started focusing on my training a lot more, like, you know, and my striking in particular. But it turned out I was Vinny DeRuscio. After hearing about him for fucking years, you know.
Yeah.
And like, since every time I see him, I bring up the story to him.
He's a great man. Yeah, geez, that's a blast from the past for me either. He used to be in there in and out a good bit, and actually fought mixed martial arts as well. The latter stages of his career too. One via submission too. Strange enough, having had. I remember. It's a triangle choke, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, there's a couple of guys in Kilkenny, Paul Cummins and Sully.
Yeah.
Like them lads, and to this day, I do the same in my gym now, because it's the likes of these guys that spent their time, would never allow me to put my hand in my pocket. You know, they were just gents, and like, only for these kind of lads all the way up, I wouldn't have got to where I would have, I don't think. Do you get me? I know I wouldn't have. So like, a lot of people on the way up, going back to those days, you know, helped me get to where I wanted to. So like, I owe a lot of people a lot of thanks. You know what I mean?
100%. That's where the foundations were definitely laid for you, Brian. Maybe I should go and give Vinny DeRusso a hard time, because I remember sparring with you one time and you absolutely busted my nose into smithereens there as well. So I
had to get some Kilkenny man back in some things. So.
Yeah.
You probably deserved it, Ian, to be fair.
I probably did. But look, you mentioned meeting John Kavanagh, obviously a very, very important moment in your career, Brian. You met him at that Wexford show, and it was soon after that you made the decision to move up to SBG. Now, you talk about a whirlwind start to your career. Like, it was mad times back there. I remember clearly myself. To get through what you got through in Wexford, winning the fights and winning the belts, and then moving up to SBG, another huge moment in your career as well, obviously, and probably one that was very intimidating at the time. It was the best, like, obviously still the best gym in the country. Back then it was almost like this kind of, mysterious place that you hear everybody is talking about SBG and fighters fighting out of SBG. To step in through the front door for the very first time for you and to be in that environment, what was that like, if you can take yourself back?
Yeah, I remember I was going up and down to Kilkenny, and I'd Miles Price was starting to go up and down to Dublin, and he had convinced me to go up. I had messaged John, and John sent me a very nice message saying, you fought Alan, you've got a lot of potential, or you're, something like that. Like, I knew I was tough. Like, I got beat up by Alan in round 1, and it was just me being tough and not being able to be put away. And I was able to come back and rally back and get a submission on Alan. So I think John probably seen something in that regard. So I went up there, but it was like very, very intimidating, because like I was pretty still new to the sport. I'd been in 2 gyms, but at the same time, I felt at home once I got there, and like, people took you under their wing and made you feel that way. Like Chris Fields, Paddy Hoolan, Caoilte Pendred, Owen Roddy, Connor, they were all very good to me. We had a very small team, so we were all quite close knit. One of my favourite memories from back in those days is when a lot of us fought on the Chaos show up north, a great show. I've so many memories of all those smaller shows in Ireland that are still doing great. But Jason put myself, Connor, Philip Mulpeter, and Paddy Hoolan on the same card, and it was for my pro debut where I fought Andy Young, and like, our dressing room was just a load of us, and we all wanted us to be successful. We all wanted the same thing. We were all just driven, young back in the day, and it was I felt a big part of a team, which I had missed for about a couple of years, because I would have played team sports from I was 5 all the way up till I was 20 to get me, and I did miss that part of it hugely. And I remember thinking that night, I was like, this I feel like I'm back in a team now again. You know what I mean? It was lovely. It was a successful night for the team as well, but it was intimidating going into SBG. But I remember like Peter Quealy was kind of on the same quest as myself, another bogger heading up to SBG to try and make their way. So that's why me and him still are, touch base, are still great friends. Gallagher came in shortly after, Kiefer, to get me. So like, I just love all those guys, everyone that I mentioned and more. You know what I mean? So they all made me feel at home.
Yeah, that story there, just kind of, when we would have been describing you after you announced your retirement as an OG, and that was it. That's the OG class of Irish mixed martial arts there. And obviously, that kind of kick-started your career in the professional ranks, Brian. As things progressed in your career, then obviously you had a couple of fights on the regional scene, Cage Warriors as well, a couple of fights on BAMMA as well before going to Bellator. At that stage of your career, when you've seen everything else that was going around, during that time there was a brief spell away. I remember there's a time where you had to go and sort out some personal stuff. How do you kind of describe that stage of your career, maybe, and when you get settled into SBG, you start fighting a couple of Cage Warriors regional shows and on to BAMMA then after that?
It's a part of my career that was kind of risky to do, what I did. I took almost 2 years out to start a business, to start a gym, and you start making money and you start getting comfortable and you realize, this is a very good way of making a living. I don't have to go back and get hit. I don't have to go and fucking put in torturous camps and all this kind of stuff. And but it's something I don't regret. Like, I've retired now. My gym is doing amazing. I'm just so happy with it, and I love going to work every day. Do you get me? So I set that up because I knew MMA is short term, so I wanted to have a kind of a backup plan. I never went training full time. The only time I trained full time was actually in COVID. And it was nice. Do you know what I mean? I felt rested. You know what I mean? But you know, at the time, my wife, she was pregnant as well. She had hyperemesis. She was very sick, so I couldn't really be up and down in Dublin. And we needed, you know, I wanted to be a provider, and rather than putting all my hopes and dreams in one thing that is very risky. And I don't regret the decision. I liked how I done my career. I liked how and I know people have said to me in the past before that I kind of missed that train of maybe getting into the UFC because, you know, guys were getting in and then I had retired. But I love how it panned out, if I'm perfectly honest. You know, and I had my opportunities later, and you know, I've zero regrets on it.
Yeah, look at it. Like you said, I think it was a very brave decision, and not a lot of fighters would, you know, want to make a decision like that, but a very brave, very educated decision, and I'm glad it did work out for you. After you did come back, you know, talking about getting your opportunity on the big show, the call comes in from Bellator, and you get that opportunity. You go in and you're scheduled to fight Daniel Weichel. That was at short notice, was it?
I was at a wedding, and I was drinking whiskey at the dinner, and John messaged me, and he goes, "Do you want to fight Daniel Weichel on, I don't know, a few weeks' notice?" And I will, I'll say anyway. But he goes, it's for 8 and 8, as in. And remember now, I got paid well in my career towards the end of it, which is great. But up to that point, I wasn't. You know that what kind of paychecks lads get on the regional scene. But like, he goes 8 and 8. And I went 800 and 800, and he goes, "No, we're in bigger books now, Brian."
Add a couple of zeros.
Yeah, and I would have gone for 800 and 800. No problem. But I knew that was a fucking hard ask. You know, I was training in SPG twice a week at that time. It was on short notice. Daniel had 50 fights or something. He had fought for the belt a couple of times with Bellator, but I knew it would get me and many others from Ireland in the foot in the door, because Bellator at the time were only putting a show on here, like, you know what I mean, that they were kind of testing it out as such, I felt anyway, and I felt it would do a lot of things for me and teammates and from people in Ireland, and I'm glad I made the call. I felt good going into it. I felt good going into it. It again, everything is a lesson. Like I used to never be able to make the fence days up in Dublin, the cage wall work days. It just didn't suit with my schedule and work. And I remember doing pretty good against Daniel on the feet, and he tried to take me down. He couldn't take me down. And then he put me against the fence, and he was just better than me there. Simple as that. And he got me down, got a submission, and hats off to him. Do you know what I mean? It's just one of those things where it made me really rethink that you can't leave any stone unturned in this sport, you know, at all, ever. So like, everything's a lesson. But that was it was nice to fight on that big show, and I had a great time in Bellator. You know, when I think of my career, it's mainly Bellator. Don't get me wrong, the regional shows like Cage Contender and Chaos and Battle Zone and all that, I have very fond memories of those, but they were all to try get to a bigger arena, things that you dream about when you first when you first follow the sport. And obviously I wanted to provide for my family too, you know, so I have so many fond memories of Bellator, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that kind of got your foot in the door there, and, you know, started your 13-fight run, like I mentioned at the start of this interview as well, one that is only matched by Sinead Kavanagh, one that'll never be beaten too, you know, if Bellator is no more. And
I'm a great person to fucking share it with. I love Sinead.
Like, brilliant. Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, it's brilliant. And you know, obviously that was your foot in the door. Next year, you're on again, Bellator 177. That's where you pick up your first win. What did that feel like under the Bellator banner? Yeah,
it was great, and like I remember I was meant to fight Ludovic Klein. Actually, he's in the UFC now, and now I say he's a lot bigger, suspiciously, since those days. But I was meant to fight him, and
must be eating his vegetables.
Yeah, definitely. Those roided up vegetables. But I was meant to fight him. He pulled out. He's actually a 2-fight scheduled, and I was like, I don't like this that he's fighting. That I'm the second fight for him, like in this short period of time. So I asked Bellator, will you just please have someone on standby, you know? And they did, and it was a relatively short notice fight. It was against not as a skilled opponent, but he was skillful nonetheless. And it was just, I was very vicious in that fight. I always remember thinking that I got a message from my dad before, and I was kind of like really nervous because I was kind of thinking if I lost that one, I wasn't getting another shot with Bellator. 2 losses, you're not signed, they're not coming back for you. So I was very nervous, and my dad just sent me a message, and he said, he wrote, "No mercy," and I went, right, no mercy, and I didn't. You get me? And that was just the way I fought, and it was to pick up the win and to get that win was amazing. And I remember running backstage and finding Mike Cogan and saying, "Can I get back on again?" And he's like, "Yeah, we'll get you back on, no problem." But I remember for the first few fights, I was struggling to get a multi-fight contract. They just wouldn't give it to me at the start. They were still a bit unsure. But then the next fight they did. Do you know what I mean?
Brian, it was an amazing time back then, because I feel like that was when the whole Bellator Irish connection really started to grow. Like it kind of started to get its roots and grow. But I wanted to go back to your debut fight week there, because not only were you fighting, but like it was the fight was it the card was headed by Mohamed Lawal, right, and Satoshi Ishii. But it was, I would say, like James was really starting to blossom as a star under Bellator, and he had the perfect foil in Anthony Taylor standing across from him, who of course has gone on to James went on to kind of become the superstar in Ireland for Bellator, and of course he's returned now fighting recently, and Anthony Taylor's now I guess a superstar in the crossover boxing space. But there was this amazing for people like me moment where SevereMMA had this video up, and it was Graham McDonald basically waiting at the door in SPG for James Gallagher to come in, and he was like, he's just down there, James, he's just down there. And all of a sudden James kind of struts down to the end, to the cage, the sparring cage, and this kind of fracas ensues, this kind of WWE style fracas between himself and Anthony Taylor. But every time I watch that video, and I do go back to watch this video more than probably most people, I always notice that you are kind of like the fatherly, good head on your shoulders figure that's kind of like, all right, everyone calm down here now, lads. And then at the end of it, I think, this chaos is going on, and you're just like asking James, like, can I just get a lend of some hand wraps or something? Like, very, very normal. But like, what is your recollection of that whole ordeal? Because you were front and center amidst all of that chaos.
It wasn't that chaotic. We all knew what was going to happen. Like, there's 2 young lads that are hotheads, I suppose. You know what I mean? And they, James was young in his career. He's a lot more mature now, obviously. And then you have Anthony, that is a bit of a showman too. So, and they didn't like each other. They genuinely didn't like each other at the time. Don't know if they do now, whatever. But I just remember kind of thinking, all right, relax, lads. We're all going to be fighting there on Saturday. There's no kind of need to do this, So I'm probably the worst in that regard. Like, as in, maybe if I'd done a little bit of that myself and a bit of promoting, that probably would have served me well, but I just don't see the fucking point. We're going to be fighting on Saturday. It is what it is, ain't it? But look, I made for a good video, I suppose, But yeah, I just never, from my point of view, if I was fighting my opponent, whether I liked him or didn't like him, and I did have a mix of all that. Once it was just everything before it is just pageantry, really, isn't it? It's just, I like fighting, and I liked fighting, and that was it. I didn't really like the stuff before it. I weirdly sometimes liked cutting weight. I don't know. I was talking to a friend of mine only yesterday about it. There was just a certain thing about having to get in and do it, the sauna work and all that kind of stuff. But I love fighting, and everything else outside of, I just try to take my stride and just let the time go by. So, but yeah, fair play to James and Anthony. Like, they've both done fantastic things since, like, you know what I mean? Very different areas, and I don't think James and I, like, he's a lot more to show. I'm hoping he'll get snatched up at the UFC soon, because I think he'll do great in there.
Yeah, 100%. You look at you. I was going to kind of bring this question in, but you talked about the pageantry before, what you love to do most, and that was go in there and fight. Sean Sheehan and many people have labelled you the most technical fighter to come out of Ireland. I agree with that statement too. A lot of that was kind of self-taught in some ways, Brian. You spent a lot of time with yourself in the gym, and it was kind of unique to see the level of growth as a fighter. Down to the fact that you were doing a lot of isolated training there as well. Do do you kind of look back and as you know, you kind of formulated a unique way of preparation and going to fights? Obviously, the trips up to SPG were important as well, but when you weren't up there, you were down there, you're in your own, you're isolating yourself, you're always working on and striving to get better as a fighter. And, you know, the fruits of your labor were well on show anytime you stepped in there and fought.
Well, any grappling that I've ever shown, or anything that I ever, like, I teach well over 100 kids, and anything that I've ever learned, I owe to SPG. I owe to John. That goes without saying. But my striking was a lot of it was self-taught. I got a lot of, you know, like I went to Paul and Sully and a couple of other coaches down through the years, and Cormac. But my biggest growth came from studying, from writing it down, and then working on it just diligently by myself, because I didn't really have the choice, because like I had to work full time. The scene, there's no MMA scene in Wexford right now. So like I didn't have training partners that I could come in and work with. So I had to make the most of solo sessions, and I feel like it worked really, really well. And I seen, like, you look at a lot of boxers, and I'm a huge fan of boxing, but like there's a lot of shadow boxing, a lot of bag work, a lot of solo self drills. The only thing that they really had was a coach to overlook that. So what I would do is I would video it all and analyze it, and I was trying to coach myself. Now, I probably still don't agree with being the most technical Irish fighter. I think there's some amazing guys out there, but besides being called like a good family man or a good dad or something, that's probably the nicest thing that someone could say, because I am very technique orientated, and that means a lot. So I do appreciate it. But yeah, look, I had some really great coaches over the years, so I owe them a lot of, I owe them a lot for that as well. But definitely from a grappling perspective, it's the guys in SPG, it's John, you know, and well, yeah, striking I'm obsessed with. I think if you're just obsessed with something, you put time into it, you're going to get good at it, like, you know.
For sure, yeah, 100%. I'd like to kind of circle back around. Let's talk about Bellator 187. You know, we talked about the start of your Bellator career, and there was a common trend of the start of your Bellator career, and that was short notice fights.
Yeah.
This was another one. This one
Yeah.
was a big one, though. This one, you were headlining the card against AJ McKee. You know, a guy at the time was 10-0, was one of the most highly touted prospects in the world of mixed martial arts at the time. And you were asked to come in short notice to take him on. And what unfolded in the fight was one of the toughest fights that he's ever had. And I would still say that to this day of his career. You know, you started off really well, and unfortunately, you know, the submission came in round 3 of that fight. Brian, talk to me about the whole sequence of events surrounding you hearing about that fight, you know, your experience on fight night with the fight and everything, and the aftermath too, because, you know, that made you the first Irish person to ever headline a Bellator event, and it was a massive event in the 3 Arena as well.
Yeah, it was kind of strange circumstances. I was meant to fight this. I actually can't think of his name.
Andre Concalves or something like that.
That's
Weird
it.
Name. Yeah,
that's it. And I haven't heard, like, I'd be obviously keeping an eye on the scene and things like that. I don't know if he's ever even fought since. I don't really know him. I didn't really know him when I was asked to fight him. But this was the time where my wife was quite sick. She was very sick with hyperemesis, and I was ran ragged, like, with just training and the gym, and I got quite sick, and I ended up pulling out of the fight. And so that was fine. But then we had heard then that the main event for the Dublin show had been cancelled, and I had like a week where I'd kind of recovered, and not really, but a little bit more recovered. And I rang John and I said, why don't I just put me in AJ? AJ was meant to fight someone. I think he was meant to fight Decky Dalton or something.
It was actually your opponent was supposed to, Concalves was supposed to fight
Jeremy Petley.
Petley was
Petley, I think, was supposed to
AJ
fight.
was, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. So that was grand. So I asked, I said, John, why don't you just put me in, ask Bellator, can they put me in AJ? And, you know, let's make that happen. No, I don't think, I wasn't going in at 100%, but I still feel like I performed very well. Like, I don't put that as an excuse of any description. AJ is a beast. But I remember having the fight. My wife was there on the night really sick, and we had to go straight to the hospital because like she was again violently sick, so she was in a bad way that way. So once the fight was done, I didn't really care because we actually had our child only a little while after, our second Bonnie. But it was mad circumstances, and funnily enough, I know it was a fight I lost, but it was a fight I absolutely loved. I love looking back at it. You know, it's a great one. It was a good back and forth battle. I was confident going. Firstly, confident. No, like I was never really confident going into a fight, but I was confident enough that he was a southpaw, and I liked fighting southpaws. Like Connor and Roddy were really good training partners of mine from over the years. You know, so I had a good experience versus southpaw. So I really felt like, you know, I could do really well in the fight. But I don't like the whole, since I've finished fighting, like the whole winning and losing and these, when we look back, I don't have regrets. I thought I would, but I'm just very content where I am right now and content with my career. So like when I look back at, like AJ fought the other night, and I was delighted for him. You always wish the guys that you fought, whether they beat you or you beat them, you just hope they do well in life as well, you know?
Yeah, 100%, Brian. I mean, it was a fantastic achievement for you and a guy, you know, as an OG who put the work in. It was great to see you get that moment too, and you know, very unlucky not to get the job done. But I'm glad you said it. I was going to ask you, like, I would hope that you would look back as a fond memory in your career. You know, it must have been a fantastic feeling squaring off right against AJ McCree, packed out 3 arena. You know, when you go back to the early days, training in Kilkenny, all of that kind of stuff, Brian, you know, that's what you're doing it for, really, isn't it? That's really the opportunities that's what you dream of.
And it was like, it was kind of a cool fight week. I remember we were in the Gibson, and I had very little weight to cut, like, but we were in the sauna, and Antonio McKee and AJ were both there, and so we were chatting away, and they were like getting on great. And then I remember stepping in to the cage that night, and it was different then. It was time to go. I remember looking over him, and there was a certain like look in his eye, and I knew like this is going to be a fucking war. I just knew it. I felt it. It was bloody. Like the last exchange was when I actually slipped on his fucking blood. That's how I ended up going to the ground. Now I made a terrible mistake once. I hit the deck. I thought I was much closer to the fence, so I kind of scrambled, and AJ is very athletic and very skilled. He took my back and put me out. Like there was no the better man one on the night then. Yeah, look at it. You look back at all these, and it's not just the 15 minutes that you fight or the 17 minutes. It's the whole thing around it, the camp itself, the fight week, and later in my career when I was like worked with Kieran McGeeney a lot, he definitely made me look at things more and appreciate them. You know what I mean? My last few fights, I loved all my fights, but I really took them in the last few ones, and that's probably one of the reasons why it was easier for me to retire than most, because you know I appreciated it and like I had my time, you know, and I enjoyed it all.
Just to jump in. Go on ahead, Quilcha.
No, go ahead, Andy.
No, I was just going to ask, like you mentioned there, like you're talking, you had your first main event, which is a huge deal, and of course you had to rush out because your wife was sick, completely understandably. But the work that you were doing with Kieran, was that more to kind of stay in the moment? Because I imagine like you've had about a 15-year fighting career, but I'm going to hazard a guess. Does it feel like it kind of went by in the blink of an eye, or like does it feel like you had a long 15-year fighting career?
No. Did you see pictures of me when I was like 20 when I first started this, and how I am now? It looks like that picture of like, you see that World War II veteran or that guy that was like, looks like that. Look at me now, like fucking hell. So no, it didn't go back by in the blink of an eye.
It almost doubles in time. I think
it's Andy.
Yeah.
Man. I used to get asked for ID before I started this sport. I swear to God, I looked like a fucking babby, and now, I don't know. Now I look very different. But it's parts of it go by in the blink of an eye for sure, and like moments too. But it's been a long career. But it's one I loved and I cherish. And like, although the fire to fight isn't back there, and I won't. Like, I'm not one of these guys that's going to turn around and go, I'm coming back. I know in my heart I'm not. Like I said, I'm content. I'm very, very happy in my life. But you know, it went by, as it should have. It's just I enjoyed it all. Like, I tried to take it all in, and especially Kieran just made me see it a little bit differently. After the Russia fight is when I started working with Kieran, and he just made a massive impact on my life in general. Kieran's a gent, and he's someone I regard, a good friend now. And he's just a great outlook on life, and it just made me appreciate each fight for what it was. I know it sounds strange, but I can actually kind of refer to it when I was speaking about the Wexford fights. You're kind of just focused on the fight. You weren't focused on the actual experience and enjoying it. Like, I would want these fights. I would look at the clock before I would head over to the arena, and I go, all right, Brian, by 11 o'clock tonight, all this will be over. So fucking don't even worry about it. Just go in and do your best. And by 11 o'clock, you're done with this. Rather than go out and enjoy it and take it all in and enjoy each moment. But he kind of made me appreciate that a little bit more.
Brian, during your Bellator run, I guess, too, we spoke about the ones there at the beginning of the career, obviously from AJ McGee, but when it came to, I guess, to the Noah Hat fight and then breaking your two hands, coming back and then dropping down the division and going on this run that was incredible, really. Like, those moments, there's so much that happened in, I guess, those 2 years. What was that like for you, going from maybe a low point of breaking your two hands? I remember you spoke about it before, of not being able to hold your children, and then going back, dropping down to the division and going on this incredible run. It just seemed like you had a different fire in your belly then. Yeah,
I think the fight versus Lahat, for me, kind of proved something to myself. Like, that was the easiest fight I ever had, up to the point I broke my hands. I felt brilliant in there. And before you fight your first UFC vet, you're kind of wondering, what is the level here? Like, what is the difference? And I was probably a bit long in the tooth to have kind of figured it only out then. But I built all these guys up on pedestal before I fought them. And then I fought Noad, and I was like, this is easy. But like, I broke my first hand, I broke my left hand in the first round, and I broke my right hand in the second round, should I say. And but then my right hand was worse than my left, so I kind of threw my left a little bit more, but I ended up having 7 breaks in this, so I had to get like a plastic surgeon to put my fucking thumb back together, basically. So it was a pretty bad break. But I remember coming home from the States, and there was a bit of positivity in the fact that I knew what level I was at. But the negativity of it was that I was building a house, drawing down a mortgage, and paying rent at the same time. I had just given half my purse to the IRS, and I was going to be out of work for a good many months, paying other people's wages and things like that. So that was a tough time, and it really lit a fire under my belly. Like, I got my surgeries done, and my dad brought me up and down, and we got a racer bike and a turbo trainer. And all I would do was I fucking hated every second of it. I hate cycling. I just don't understand that people can do it. But I would cycle on this turbo trainer because I couldn't do anything with my hands. And all I would do was study. And the thing I studied the most was Ben Askren's BJJ Scout. His 3-part or 4-part BJJ Scout study. And if you actually watch my next fight, I do all those things, all the rides and returns, the wrist positions, because I didn't have a camp for my next fight, because I was literally getting off the turbo trainer and having a couple of weeks in MMA gloves again, and then having a fight. I fought that hand with the broken hand because this hadn't healed at that time, but it didn't feel like, it didn't really feel like it had an effect because I was so driven at the time. I didn't want to feel how I felt. I didn't want to walk away from the sport either, because I then knew that I was at that level. So it was kind of what are you going to do? Are you going to stop and have all these big regrets knowing that you're at a good level? Or are you going to fucking put your nose in the grindstone and go at it again? And that's what I decided to do. And that fight that I bounced back to, like, I shouldn't have fought in that time frame. So probably wasn't the most exciting fight. It was a very dominant fight against an opponent who I probably shouldn't have been fighting at the time, to be honest. But I was proud of how I bounced back. Let's put it that way.
The run itself was was brilliant. Like, obviously, I remember the win over Simone Dana. The finish was, and then obviously the win against Winsky. But you went on to fight in Russia, and you referenced it earlier. What was it like flying over to Russia? Because it's not something you typically hear of in an Irish fighter's career. I know you've gone over, Peter Queeley's gone over. I know Artem's fought over there as well, but not many people get the opportunity to fight in such an, maybe I'd like to say, obscure place in the world. It must have been quite the difference for you.
It was, but I really didn't want it to be there. I didn't want to be there. Like, there's no fight that I enjoyed, like, to a certain extent, every prep and every time I went somewhere or what like that. But I had a thing that happened in my life. Like, there's a family member, me and him we don't speak anymore, and that happened just before I went to Russia. So I was dealing with all that at the time, and it was very hard to take on, and a lot of things to try and process. And the last thing I should have been doing is been away from my family and fighting. But I'd signed the contract, I'd got my visa, I'd done all those things, and I wasn't going to let anyone down. Like, it's like Bellator were always good to me, and they'd spent money getting my visa and getting the flights and putting me on a card. That was, you turn up, it's my job. So I did, but it was weird circumstances, because it was kind of still like COVID time, and you were kind of isolated, and it was just I couldn't sleep or nothing like that. So it was just a very, very tough time, and I really didn't want to fight. I felt like really sorry for my opponent. I'll never forget this. We were in the lobby to try and catch the bus to the arena, and I could see him and his team were around, and he was kind of on the outskirts of his team, kind of not talking to anybody. And I kind of felt really bad. I wanted to kind of go over and talk to him, because I was like, poor old fucker is on him by himself, like. And that's not me, because when I'm fighting someone, I want to fucking, it's no mercy. It's like, I'll be their friends afterwards. I'll be whatever I'll be. But in that moment, they're trying to take something away from me and my family. But I couldn't differentiate between it when I was over there. I shouldn't have been fighting, but I did. And sure, we've seen the result of it, you know what I mean? But being in an obscure place and a strange place, I would have really liked to have went over there with a good mindset, because, like, the great Fedor was fighting that night, and to have shared a card with a living legend, someone like that will always go down as one of the greatest. I didn't take that in at all. I barely acknowledged that. And then when I look back at it, I was like, fucking hell, I fought in the same card as Fedor. I really wish I was in a better mind frame for that, even for just that alone. You know what I mean?
Brian, you gave me to be honest, one of the best interviews I've ever had from any fighter, period, after that. And it was vulnerable. It was like you basically just poured your heart and soul out about the experience that you went through, like the 50 hours or whatever it was that you weren't sleeping, I suppose the work. And you mentioned, multiple times there already about the work you've done with Kieran McGeeney and stuff since then. And in the fights that you had after that, because like you talk about the kind of, working on yourself and the fucking emotional shit that you have to go through and all that stuff. I never really wanted to ask you too much, like, how are you feeling now? Or like, because you don't want to keep bringing it up. But now that you've finished fighting, how much changed for you for the rest of your career? Like, when you were going into the rest of your fights, did you feel freer? Did you feel like a weight had been lifted? And even like kind of now as you move into a new period of your life where you're no longer you'll always be Brian Moore the fighter, but you're not going to be Brian Moore the active fighter. Has it changed things for you in your life? Has it made it better, I guess?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I was like, every single thing is a lesson. Like, everything that we've referenced. I had a girl who fought last night, and I explained to her, like, the result didn't go our way, but there's lessons in every single thing. And that one was a big one for me. Like, I kind of feel strange talking about it now, because I'm in me and my wife only talking about it. Like, I've never been happier in my life. I thought I'd have this kind of transitionary period after fighting, that I'd be a little bit, lost or something, but it really isn't the case. I'm very, very happy. But maybe it's come down to having to go through shitty periods in your life where you have to try and adapt and add things in, and I'm that's why it kind of feels like a little bit alien to me to talk about it now, because I feel like it's been a long time ago. However, sorry, hey Missy, I'm on the go back.
She's grand.
It's all good. No worries.
Does it feel like it was a different person almost?
No, I said go back because she'd be mortified if she knew like that. But sorry. Yeah, like obviously, like I done a lot of work with Kieran. I spoke to a therapist quite a few times, and like there has been no really need for me to go back, even though I wouldn't be dead set against it or anything. But I'm just in a great time, great space, and I'm a very happy, content man. But maybe that's only happened because I had to go through that period as such, you know what I mean? And it brought on better fights, but it brought on just better perspective to life in general. You know what I mean? I'm very fortunate. There isn't a day that goes by where I don't feel grateful for the life that I have and the people that I have. Jesus Christ. There isn't like, and maybe doing that bit of work made me really realize that more.
It's amazing to hear, Brian. I'm delighted to hear you say that because you told us all what you were going through, and to hear that you found that kind of fulfillment is brilliant.
Yeah, like, and I didn't mention back then like I said, like I mentioned about like a family member and all, but I just didn't think it was the right timing and whatnot. But look, it's just these things that happen, and you know, it's I do feel that like us in general, especially Irish people, we put like time and effort into everything. We'll fucking make sure our car is perfect before we bring it to the NCT. But we won't check in and go speak someone because there's just a stigma around it. And like I'd have no problem. Like if I ever have dark days or bad times or anything like that, I'll 100% touch base with a therapist again. Like there's no question in my mind that I would. I think it's extremely beneficial. You know, and I think I see more kids doing it as well. I think it should be normalized, really, to be perfectly honest. You see it happening a lot more, like with play therapy and things like that as well with kids, which is amazing. Like we've a girl, our daughter, our youngest, who's autistic, and she goes to a play therapist. She sees an occupational therapist, and she's thriving as a result of these interventions. So like, I think we're getting more open to it as people anyway. So
for sure, and I think it's definitely important for a role model like yourself, especially when you've been in the fight game for so long, because you know the stigma around the fight game is, you know, you're tough and you're mentally strong and everything like that. But you know, for you to have the confidence and letting your guard down and expressing it's not always okay all the time too, it's an important message to be sending out to everybody, even young up and coming fighters as well. You know, you got to get your head right as well as getting your kind of skill set improved as you go along too, you know.
Yeah, but even from a like I found Kieran like take sports psychology out of it. Like it definitely made me feel better about fighting, but like I felt like as soon as I started working with him, my business improved, my relationships improved. Like I just think it's always good to have a mentor in that regard as well, and he has mentors as well in that regard. So like I think it's just beneficial. I don't think people open their eyes up to it enough, or probably see there's no need for it. But yeah, and sports psychology is strange because like some of the best minds in MMA in particular have never went near a sports psychologist, so it's very individualized, you know.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Brian, we appreciate the time. We're not going to keep you too much longer now. We'll start wrapping it up fairly soon, but it's been a fantastic conversation so far. I guess the next question I would have for you was, when was the exact moment that, you know, you said to yourself, I'm going to retire, I'm done?
Oh, there wasn't an exact moment. There certainly wasn't. I had got injured, and I was an adductor avulsion. So basically, my adductor came out of my groin and brought bone with it. So it was a fucking terrible injury. And I went to see a consultant. It was a very rare injury. It was actually the same injury Johnny Sexton had done before the World Cup that time. And I went to see a surgeon, and he said, you need to retire. You're not going to come back from this. Basically, it's a career ending with your age and injury and all like this. So I was actually booked in to go for surgery on a Friday, and a friend of mine begged me to go get it was a third consultation. because it's a rare injury. So one of the consultants actually said, I can't operate on this. I don't know. I've never done this before. And the guy who was actually going to be operating it had never done it as well. I was going to be his first, so I was probably going to be his guinea pig. But so I actually went to Brian Devitt, I'm pretty sure is his name. He's Johnny Sexton's surgeon. And he said, no, you don't need to retire. What are you talking about? He goes, this is fine. He goes, this is not that bad. There's a lot of rehab in it. And it's 50-50. You can decide whether you want to get surgery or not. And I said, right, I'm not getting surgery. I'll rehab it. I know I'm diligent with it. If you tell me to do something, I'm going to do it. And it felt good. But when that first guy told me that you're going to retire, I had to kind of process that and put that in my mind. And
what was that like, Brian, when someone is telling you, you can't do what you have been doing for pretty much, your whole adult life? Horrible,
because I always wanted to finish this sport on my own terms. Always. Every fighter does. So like I didn't like that. I didn't accept it anyway, really. But it was the first kind of time where I was like, fuck, am I really going to have to fucking stop this? But then then Bellator, I loved my time in Bellator. I really did. I know you guys would have given out about some of the matchmaking, and I can see for sure your points.
I think more so down to us. I think we have a similar enough problem with Kieran Clark now, who it just fucking fight for yourself. I think that's what kind of the kind of ideology we had for us, that but you always were who you were, so maybe we kind of took up that.
You should have got the Higo fight. Come on,
yeah, we wanted to say fuck it, if we will.
You have to call him out for the golf course or something and say.
Yeah. So I knew you weren't happy. I knew you guys, and then Sean and all were always like, when are they going to give Brian Moore a good matchup and all this kind of stuff? And I was like, yeah, fair enough. But then Ian, when he referred to someone being Brian Moore, as in being, I can't know who it was. I knew it was a problem then. You know what I mean?
But you become a verb.
Yes, exactly. Basically. But shit, what were we even talking about there? Can't even remember now.
Just about kind of the lead up to your decision to retire.
The reaction being told, you had to retire.
No, but and then we see when Bellator got taken over by PFL, it just didn't have that. I didn't have the same fire to fight for a different company. I didn't to be honest, lads were getting cut that were friends of mine, not just fighters, but guys that had been on the scene with Bellator that I still speak to. I don't know if you know how good the staff that Bellator had were. They were fucking amazing. They were great people. And then you're seeing your friends that you train with getting cut as well. And I was like, this is not, I don't like this. I have loyalty to them. So to fight for PFL, I just had no desire really. And I had a little bit of time to think about it. And, I was speaking to my wife about who never, ever asked me to do anything. She didn't ask me to retire. And I'd be asking her opinion on it. She goes, look, you got to make this decision. Do you get me? I was almost wanting her to make the decision, but she wouldn't. And it wasn't just a one day thing. And one day I woke up, but I was waking up to a job that I love. I get to see my kids so much. Do you get me? Get to spend time with I could see way more of my friends. Me and Noreen get to hang out so much. And I was like, I'm so happy. I don't know if I need or want this in my life anymore, and coaching does an awful lot for me. I just adore it, and I feel like that's where my interest has now went more towards. I felt like it would have been a drag to get into another training camp rather than an enjoyment,
Did you feel like you kind of almost had, because when your last fight was 2023, so you had that bit of time where you kind of got used to not fighting? Did that kind of validate to be like, oh, do you know what? I'm actually enjoying life, and I don't need this.
No, because I kind of, as soon as I firstly when I was rehabbing things, when I was rehabbing the adductor, there was plenty I was actually allowed to able to still do, and I would just put the same amount of hours in on this stuff that I was boring, but I still done it. You know what I mean? But obviously I was up and down to Dublin less and things, and that wasn't as that was kind of nice because I wasn't as on the go and all those things. But yeah, it's just I think it was just an accumulation of a lot of things that made me want to retire and not fight again. But I wouldn't have said just because I had that bit of time off. It's hard to know. when I think back at it, maybe the writing was on the wall for my last fight. Like, they asked me to fight a bantamweight, and again, I probably listened to SevereMMA and the Auld Triangle a bit more, and I was like, I don't like this matchup. You know what I mean? What's this matchup getting me? You know? And they said, and I said, yeah, look, do you know what? I'm not cutting weight to fight these good guys that are unknown. I goes, I'm going up to featherweight, and then like maybe that was the writing on the wall. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't have done that previously, but when I kind of think about it, I fucking loved that camp. The result didn't go my way. I was very outsized and all in that fight, but it was such more of an enjoyable camp. Oh my god, not having to cut all that weight and stuff. So, you know, I love the sport, and I got up this morning and watched the UFC. I was cornering a kickboxing show last night. I get to coach, you know, a lot of people every week, and I love it. Like, I'm just taking one element out of it, and that's fighting.
Right. Could have saved a few 10% if just listen to our podcast more.
I know.
Right. Talk about your love for the sport as a guy who was, you know, in it very early days, one of the OGs, to see how the sport has progressed over the course of your career and like the evolution of mixed martial arts during that period in general, number one, and within Ireland, number two. Is that something that you kind of were taking notice of because sometimes it can be hard when you're engrossed in it and you're always looking to try and improve and develop and get better, but you know, is it something that you kind of took heed to throughout your career and in the growth of the sport of mixed martial arts and the growth of the popularity in within Ireland as well?
Like, say, from when I first started, say, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you first started to, you know, when you finished. Yeah,
sorry, you a bit of an interruption. I couldn't hear that. No, okay. Like, from when I started to where the sport is now in Ireland it's like a different sport. It's like a different universe, to be honest. It's fucking insane. But like, it had to take that. We couldn't have just went from 0 to 100. There had to be the non-regulated shows. There had to be the fucking crazy matchups. There had to be all those things. But I just found that the scene in Irish MMA, I hated fighting an Irish person. I really did. Like, when I fought Tommy McCarthy that time, like, he was very close to getting into the UFC, and when I beat him, I was elated. I was delighted, but it kind of hit me a couple of days later. I was like, I probably ruined that guy's dream. Like, I really felt bad, you know, or it felt bad, should I say? But like, we're a small group, a small island, but we're so hardworking, and there's people in it that are just would do anything for the sport and do everything for the progression. Now we've a lot more people involved, and you see the success in the IMAFs. You see things being ran so much more professionally, and you see guys that don't have to struggle financially for fucking years on end. You know, they're able to make a good living. They're able to bring home a good paycheck, and that makes a huge difference. But it's only from the likes of the guys that went before me as well. Like, I know you're saying that, like, I'm an OG as such, but I was the early days, but there was guys before me.
There was.
And they paved the path before I did, and for everyone else after me as well, you know. So, like, when I think of when I think of what fighting gave me and like the life I have now, I gotta think about the people that were fucking, you know, doing all they could to organize shows, to fucking get guys fights, to doing all those things back before I was. You know, I remember, like, what was the name of the show in Galway? What was Point Blank used to run a show? Like, what was that called?
Oh, it used to be in the Black Box in Galway. Is that right?
100%, yes. And it wasn't the Irish champion or the world champion. It was the intergalactic. Remember that?
Yeah, remember that? I do. I can't remember the name of it now. Caoilte, can you help us out here? No.
I'm on board, study, looking it up as we speak.
Well, do you know what? The reason I know that is because, and I've met Tim Murphy. He's such a nice guy. I knew he was like my weight class. So I'd be like, I want to fight the best fucking featherweight in the country. Who is it? And then boards.ie, and sure that's how I remember that. But
there was a many a fighter called out on boards.ie back in the day. That's where it was all happening back then.
Explain, but because like I'm a blow-in, But like, there's loads of people who are probably listening that have no idea what Borzadi was, and I know it was a huge part of the Irish scene.
Fucking beast.
Explain Borzadi to the unfamiliar.
It was a thread, like it's like an Irish Reddit, but like it was the only place you were getting information regarding MMA. So like there was no, like, this was before social media, really, like Facebook, or it was before, like, before the growth of that. So if you were wanting to find a fight, he went on the boards that where's the next show, fucking, you name it. Like, it's just, it was the thread where you found the information regarding MMA, MMA. And it was fine there because it was mainly promoters and it was very amicable. But then shit went sideways then when fighters went on it, you know what I mean? And there was call outs, and I remember Connor put up something about like Connor Dillon and Chris Stringer. And he was like, I'll fucking fight you for your 2-pack posters or something fucking crazy. But it was hilarious, Yeah. But that's what I'm saying, like where everyone has gotten to, and where the Irish scene has gotten to, like that, we it's a butterfly effect. We wouldn't be here only for all that, And like I owe a lot of thanks to a lot of people, and a lot of those are who went before me, So
the shows that you finished up on, obviously the big Bellator events, are a far cry from where you started in White's Hotel in Wexford. I don't know whether you're familiar with the meme of the security guard who's checking people going into the soccer stadium, where he's just barely rubbing his hands along the side of the person and letting them in without anything at all. That's what doctors' checks were like back in the day. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah, you have a heartbeat. Yeah, you have a heartbeat. You're breathing all right. You have 2 arms. You have 2 legs. You're good to go in. And it's
like people listening to you might think you're kind of exaggerating. You're probably you're not selling it enough, to be honest. Like it was crazy. Yeah. But we all knew it. That's what we all signed up for. We had no fucking fear.
It's crazy.
That was it,
But I'll leave you with this one, Brian. In terms of wrapping up your full career highlights, your favorite fight, your toughest opponent, and your toughest training partner.
Oh fuck. Oh my God! Right, my toughest. I'll go for my favorite fight or toughest fight. Sorry.
Your favorite fight, your toughest opponent, and your toughest training partner.
Oh my God, this is all right. You pick one, and I'll go pick one first because my head is spinning now with the 3 questions.
Ooh, favorite fight.
Oh, sorry. No, just pick one, as in I'll answer.
Oh, yeah, favorite fight. Yeah, let's go favorite fight first.
Sake, all right,
I was like, fuck, am I going to... Sorry.
Yeah, okay, my favorite fight. I liked the Silva fight because I had a really good corner. I had like one of my best friends. He was a pad man. He was there. I had my team around me. I loved that. And I was in a great headspace. But I have to say, I think I loved my very first fight because like that team atmosphere and my wife drove up and all. So, but I think one of my favorites was the Winsky fight in LA. A very clean, polished performance in LA because I had dreamt about like fighting in America. I'd lost previously to Lahat under those broken hand circumstances, so I really wanted to win on US soil. And it was me, Jo, James Gallagher, and Kiefer, and we had a fucking ball over there, and I've so many fond memories of that. So I'd probably go. I'll go LA, but I have to pick the Silva fight because the walkout with the Fields of Athenry will always be something that will, be so fun. I'll always have fond memories of that. So I'll pick those 2 if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem at all. Toughest opponent next.
Plenty of tough opponents. Plenty. Simone Dana was just tough as nails. I found it and I had to really put him away properly. No Adla had, I dropped him a few times. And I remember that. I remember trying to finish him ground and pound, and the whack of weed off him was incredible. I was unbelievable. I think that's how he was. Only for he was so baked, I don't think he would have fucking kept going.
He didn't know what was going
on. Obviously AJ was super skilled. Toughest. Fuck. I'll go like not on skill. I'll just go on actual toughness. Lahat, like his head was so fucking hard. He kept going. He looked so dejected after round one. If there was a couple more seconds, the referee would have stopped it. And I looked at him and I was like, he is done. He's done. I know my hands are done, but he's done. And he came back and he just kept coming. And so I'll give him as the tough guy.
And then last was the toughest training partner. Who gave you the toughest rounds at the gym?
I had some very tough rounds over the years. Obviously, any rounds I've ever done with Connor is always going to be a tough go. Me and Pedro would be when we went at it, it was kind of almost a battle of who has better striking, who has better conditioning, who's tougher. It was just nonstop, and we fucking loved it. We looked like two psychopaths when we sparred. Quealy, tough as nails. But you know what? I'm gonna go Blaine O'Driscoll. Just a tough little fucker.
Wow.
I'm so fond of Blaine. I'll go Pedro because he's just,
wow. It's the
I
last
thought you were
matchup.
setting it up for Blaine there.
Blaine is a little bit smaller than me, so I was able to kind of maybe just use my jab for a couple of seconds. But I'll go back to Pedro because he's just in your face. But it was just so enjoyable. We would have so much fun sparring. And if you made a mistake, or if he made a mistake, we let each other know. It was just really good. Very technical guy, obviously. And I love Pedro. And obviously love all the guys. Like they're all tough fuckers. It's hard to pick them on. They're all tough as nails.
What do you miss most about your fighting career?
I miss a lot I miss a lot. Like I have a great team in Dublin, great friends that I've made. So I'll miss that camaraderie, getting ready, going to Dublin, the challenge of sparring. I used to try and make it as real as possible. I miss all that. I miss I still train a lot. So obviously that's still there. I miss finding out these things about myself, fight week, how you're handling everything and getting in there and just going at it. And yeah, it's hard to pick one thing, but the competition is basically why I started. It's the thing that I fell in love with when I was 5. I remember my first GA match, couldn't believe I was allowed to compete. I was like, fuck, this is amazing. So probably the competition. It really, on the day, fuck no. Jesus, the last thing you want to do is fight. For me anyway. But then afterwards or during, you're like, wow, this is exhilarating. This is what life is meant to be like, But I've had my fair share of it. And I'm more than happy to leave it. I'm in a different stage in my life where, I'm just content with the career I have. I love my career. I mightn't be the most polished career as I'm 19 and 10. Well, 16 and 10. I know I had 3 amateur fights that weren't amateur fights. I always kind of...
I was looking at your Tapology before that, and I was saying that to the boys. I was like, those 3 amateur fights were not fucking amateur fights.
No, and they're 4-ounce gloves, fucking everything. There's not an amateur about them. No. But, I love my career and I'm content to leave it there and focus on the next chapter. I always wanted to leave the sport on my own terms with my faculties intact and set up, and that's where I am. And I sometimes you feel like a little bit responsible because you're in the sport so much, but we've got a lot of fucking great people still in the sport. You look at the likes of Ian Gary, Paul Hughes, Will Flory, Pedro, James, Kiefer. There's any amount of them that are still just fucking on a tear and doing really great. And of course, all the great coaches, all the kids that are on the come up, they're just, they're all doing amazing things. So Irish MMA is in a great place, and I'm still going to be involved. I am coaching. I'm mainly coaching kids because I feel like that will help me become a better coach in the long run. It also coincides with the fact that I have very young kids that I don't want to be, right now anyway, on the road every weekend helping some fucker make weight for a fight in a sauna. That's not what I want to do. I want to spend time with my kids and see them grow up. But I know that day will come. We have 115 kids now training in our gym, and I think it's the largest academy in the country, which is crazy because we're only in a very small rural area. But we're doing good things and the kids are amazing. So there'll be no doubt that's in my in my future. But yeah, for now, I'm happy to be doing what I'm doing, and Irish MMA is in a great spot without me.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, Brian, to get down and sit chat to you about your whole career over the last hour. So, we were really looking forward to this. You're always and will continue to be a fantastic representative of Irish mixed martial arts and mixed martial arts in general. It's been a pleasure watching your career, seeing you grow up through and get all those big opportunities. And, I can speak for the lads as well in saying that we truly wish you the best in retirement. We look forward to seeing what's next for you. And, thank you for everything, Brian.
No, listen, thank you, lads. Definitely as a fighter, I know the importance of what you do. You always shone the light on us Irish fighters. We're very lucky. Like Ireland, we definitely probably have the best MMA media outlet. And you all have always shone a good light on us, and we've always done our best, and I feel like you've always done the same. So look, we're very lucky. And thank you very much. All right, for giving an old man an interview. Yeah.
Well, this isn't goodbye now, Brian. Because now that you're on the other side, you can talk all that shit now. You've
talk that shit.
Shackles are off. You're not beholden to any organization. You can speak your mind. In fact, this is going to become the L Square. You're
the L Square. I was happy in my career not to do that. And I'm happier now that I'm finished, so you won't hear any shit from me that way. That's for fucking certain. And in regard to turning this into a square, you won't see me doing a podcast anytime soon either.
I love it.
Actually, you know what? I might jump on Niall McGrath's golf podcast. I might do that actually.
Ooh, yeah, the forecast.
I seen you were playing a bit of golf. I get out and try and play a little bit myself. I saw you liked one of my posts as well. That's kind of you're going the Gareth Bale route. You're retiring and going on to golf.
Well, I actually used to play a decent level of golf before I went to college, really, and I stopped. And then when I went back, played a couple of times when I was fighting, and I was getting obsessed with it. So I said I'd wait now till I'm finished and I'm retired, and then I'll give it a good whack again. So,
love it.
Yeah, sure, it is what it is.
PGA Tour in 3 or 4 years then it is.
The seniors tour, baby.
maybe so. Brian, thanks once again for taking the time. Hope everybody enjoyed that interview. I sure did. We appreciate you, Brian. Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks so much, lads. All the best. Randy.
Alrighty, lads. A couple of housekeeping things to look at before we wrap it up here. Let's start with the news of Paddy McCorry. Reports may have surfaced over the weekend that Paddy McCorry is going to compete on Dana White's Contender series. We had been calling for it. I know he's been calling for it. The rumor mill shows now, and it may all be confirmed by the time this podcast comes out, but as we are recording here, it's still only a report that tells us that Paddy McCorry is going to be taking on Insu Huang in replacement of Will Curry on the Dana White's Contender series. And I think it's exciting times here, Caoilte, for a guy like Paddy. Or Andy, anything to add on to that?
No, I was just going to say, so it was the matchmaker, so MMA_matchmaker on Twitter put out this report saying, sources tell me Paddy McCorry stepping in to replace Will Curry on week 6 of Dana White's Contender series. He'll face Insu Huang in a middleweight showdown. I have confirmed with one source that is correct. That's I guess I wouldn't usually report unless it's two sources. But I that's what I'm hearing also. But brilliant. I mean, whatever about the reporting, but that's amazing news for Paddy, isn't it? Exciting,
Caoilte. I think it's coming at a good time for Paddy. All things considering, and the run that he's been on. It's like, you can mess around and maybe fight on the Dublin card again, but I think I felt that Paddy McCorry is ready for this opportunity, and I'm glad that he's getting it too.
Yeah, same as. Thought he was ready after tough. He just needed a bit more, I guess, fights on his record. He's got them now. He's looked good. He's coming off a big win, but he's also coming off a massive, I guess, load of traction that went towards him following the last fight, where he just became an internet sensation or went viral overnight, whichever way you want to say. So he garnered a lot of traction then, and this hype train of him and how he's competing at the moment as well, it just keeps on going. So perfect time, take the opportunity when it comes up, and I'd love to see it. Big one for him now, this.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Not obviously only kind of seen that news this morning. I didn't really have too much time to look into his potential opponent there, but maybe we'll break that fight down. Maybe talk to Paddy ahead of that fight as well on the Auld triangle here. But yeah, delighted that he's getting the opportunity. Since we've last been on, we've also had a fight announcement for Kiefer Crosbie, who's set to fight Kenan over in UFC Shanghai. On the 23rd of August. So that one's not too far away, just a couple of weeks away as well. I'm very excited to see Kiefer in there. I have got to kind of stop at Kiefer for a minute because, he posted on his Instagram stories, Andy, during the week of, just kind of opening up a little bit. We talked to Brian, who, opened up about his struggles with mental health and everything throughout his career. Kiefer just had a really, to me, it was a post that hit home, really kind of, brave and honest, and just kind of highlighting some of the difficulties that he's had since joining with the UFC and dealing with losses and falling in and out of addiction issues again. And I really, really good to hear that he's come out the other side of it, and now he has another fight to focus on in the UFC as well. All credit to Kiefer. It'd be great to maybe have a chat with him as well. About the preparation and where he's at right now, but seems that he's in a good place, seems injury free from based off the post, and all things are headed towards this fight, and it's an important one with Kenan as well, Andy.
Yeah, like I thought that the post was inspiring and very commendable of Peter of Kiefer to put out there. Like that's not easy doing stuff like that, but like you're as we talk with Brian, and kind of bearing your soul to the world. But it's brilliant. It's amazing to hear Kiefer shared, and also that he's in a better place now. He seems to be, in a good headspace. Obviously, he's over in the UFC PI right now, prepping for this fight. I imagine ensuring that no stone is left unturned ahead of this one. Kenan Song, obviously a guy that fans of Irish MMA will be familiar with, having previously fought Ian Machado Gary. A very, very tough fight, a very skilled fighter. We saw, if I recall correctly, that was the fight where Ian got dropped in it and then was able to mid-fight and ultimately finished Song. But look, this is a dangerous fight for Kiefer, and it's a do or die one. And I'd love to get Kiefer on and chat to him, because it's an interesting one as well, where you're coming off two losses, very publicly peeled the curtain back on what the effect that had on him each time, and the ramifications within his life with addiction and things like that, as to what he kind of fell back into. So there's a lot on the line here for Kiefer, but it's great to hear that he's in a great headspace ahead of it. And yeah, I'd be keen to get him on, and we can have a chat with him ahead of the fight. But yeah, just all the best to him, and fair play to him for speaking out. And I hope that he continues to feel this way, because yeah, it sounded like he was in a really rough spot, and I'm glad to hear that he's doing better now.
Yeah, 100%. Echo those sentiments as well. Upcoming action, Caoilte, before we wrap it up here. We've got Omran Shaban. It's almost every episode that we do of the Auld Triangle now we're going to be talking about an Omran Shaban fight. He is fighting at UAE Warrior 61 in Abu Dhabi against Wellington Madeira. The third fight since leaving the tough household, not fighting for the title despite being the champion. And do anybody knows why that is the case?
I don't know if it was like a timing issue or what. He fought the last fight, which was only a couple of weeks ago. It feels like
weeks ago, is right.
Where he that also wasn't for a belt, because it was like the Africa versus Arabia card, I think. So
yeah,
I'm not sure exactly what. I don't know if there's maybe contractual aspects to this, where if you keep. Yeah, I don't know if there's a champions clause or anything like that, but maybe it's just a timing thing. It's obviously short notice, so maybe they didn't want to, kind of build it around a title fight.
For sure. I'll just rattle off a couple of other fights here, Caoilte, and I'll bring you in then. We also see the return of Dylan Logan, who's fighting at Raged MMA 22. Saturday the 26th of July, that's happening. He takes on Kai Holmes at featherweight. Is it?
Featherweight.
Oh, it's featherweight. Okay. I have a type over there. I think this is lightweight that he's gone for.
Could be lightweight for the second title, is it?
I think so.
Yep. We can get it. We can go check that out.
It's featherweight. It's on their Instagram there.
Yeah.
For feck's sake, Tap. You know what that is now? I'm going to put you on blast, quiz. Tapology had it wrong. All right?
I'm not on the UK scene anymore,
Right.
so I just do Ireland.
I'm going to fact test it. No, I'm fact checking this in real time.
I actually can't change it.
This is the content people really want. Is just
well, as Andy is checking there, one fight that we do know is happening. In
lightweight, 155 pounds, 70.3. Tapology. I'm calling you out. All right, I'm going for a second title. Get your shit together. Well, I'm going to start using Sherdog. All right.
I was half tempted to change that to featherweight while you were looking there, but I didn't have enough time.
I
don't know if I have the edit access. Go on.
I had lightweight in our document, didn't I?
Yeah, I changed it.
It's hard to keep up with these 2 points. I'm trying to. He's gone. It's the Auld straight. We were calling it the Auld Square now with Ryan Moore. Yeah, we can't get Andy out, Brian in, or we just me and Caoilte would be the Auld straight line or something like that. We can call it. A fight that we do know is taking place in the featherweight division. Nathan Kelly versus Frederick Duprat takes place on Friday, the 1st of August, Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City. And Caoilte, we also have the IMAF Youth World Championships from July 20th until the 27th. All of those fights. Any thoughts? Anyone you're looking forward to? Give it to us.
Loads. Yeah, Nathan Kelly's back sooner than I would have expected.
I was pleasantly surprised to see that myself.
Same as. And I think it's probably a better matchup than he got for the last time after he had lost in that against Taekwondo Kim. That was very soon, I thought, after the Magomedov one. And he's bouncing back, trying to bounce back now, gets another opportunity. It's a decent card as well, that one to be fighting on. So it shows that PFL are really, they're really getting behind him still. They're getting him back in there. And I'm glad to see him active. He could end up with, if he wins here, he could end up with another fight at his rate, 2 more fights after this by the end of the year. So he's staying active. Good to see, and I'm excited to see how he does in there now. But outside of that, then Dylan Logan at featherweight for the second title. Good to see him back in. He's came back recently enough. Fought at lightweight, won the championship against I can't remember that guy's name, but the name escapes me. But
Dorian Swiatkowski, I think.
Sean Denny can correct us. So he won the title there, back now. It's great, Good to see him active. You never know, you could end up seeing him on a Cage Warriors card if he wins this title as well. And
Dylan Logan would be like the perfect lad for an Irish versus Irish fight, I feel like.
Of course you'd say that.
I feel like in fact, get him a win on this and straight in again in September.
Who would you put him in, mate?
So we're talking featherweight or lightweight, or no? What's this? So this is featherweight. So he's obviously gone in lightweight first to test it out, or to come back, drop it to featherweight. So assuming this goes all right, you'd want him in and against a featherweight. I mean, Max Lally could do with a step up in competition.
Jeez,
I was going to say Adam Shelley.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd like that one as well now.
Yeah, good options.
And Dylan Logan used to train at KF, I believe. So
and Ryan Shelley would be another option as well. Yeah. Interesting. It's good to have options. It's good to see Dylan back again. Obviously,
you said Ryan, did you?
I said Adam.
You said Adam. I don't know what I'm doing here today, guys.
Right, we better wrap this up before Stevenson goes off the rails altogether. Right? One thing you didn't mention was the IMAF Youth World Championships, Caoilte. They are happening from July 20th to 27th. Give us a little breakdown, or is there anyone we should be watching that's taking part in those championships?
There's so many of them now that, Jesus, it'd be hard to keep up. They have an army going over there on the Irish team. It's amazing. The work that's every time these come up, I think we always highlight it, and it deservedly so. The work that they put into it is second to none. All the people involved in, I guess, the youth setup under IMA, it's incredible. And they always come back with a load of medals. I don't actually have the list up in front of me here. I'm after deleting the tab. But I'm sure either way they're going to come back from Abu Dhabi with an absolute heap of medals. And I would probably expect them to finish at the top 5 of the overall medal rankings. They tend to always, and they're probably one of the most competitive nations in the IMAF Youth Championships. So yeah, I think. Tell you what, I think Alan McCormack's gone over there, isn't he?
Yeah, I was going to say, because it ties us right in. I want to say congratulations, obviously, to Danny and to Alan for the birth of their baby boy, I believe it was, lads.
Yeah, Satanta.
Yeah. Satanta, great.
Satanta's probably already over competing at those things.
yeah, probably is. Junior C, probably over there throwing those leg kicks.
He's probably fighting Muay Thai already. Like.
He got some good genes there in terms
Exactly.
of, yeah, definitely. But no, it was great news that came in this week. You know, Danny, obviously, we've talked to her many times on the podcast here. She's always, keeping us up with all of the information that's going on with IMAF, and her and Alan have done some fantastic work there. Obviously, it might be a little bit too soon for Danny, but it's crazy. Alan showing his commitment if he is traveling over there to help out the team there for the week. So yeah, once again, massive congratulations to both Alan and to Danny for the birth of Satanta. Glad everything went okay there, and yeah, massive congratulations to you both.
Absolutely, congratulations.
Cool. And I think that wraps us up, lads, for episode 88 of the Auld Triangle. Great interview with Brian. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Hope you enjoyed that interview. Hope you enjoyed everything else, all the breakdown of the fights. We'll probably have a metric ton of Cage Warriors Dublin fights to break down on our next podcast. Hopefully they don't release a bunch of them before this comes out. But
before we go, what do you reckon? Because we don't know. We've no inside information right now. What's the main event, or which Irish fighters in the main event?
Oh, it's a tough one, right? Because to me, it would have been, I would have been saying Paddy McCorry middleweight championship. Obviously, Paddy's off to Dana White's Contender series. Obviously, James Sheehan is another guy that's fit the headline event. Is it too much too soon? I know he suffered a couple of injuries in that Burlinson fight. Not sure whether it's I know I haven't been speaking with him or heard anything on whether he can turn it around. And then after that, you're talking about fighters who you would deem to have set themselves up to challenge for the title. And, I think we all came to agreement when we were kind of chatting about this earlier on off air. We can look really no further than a guy like Solomon Simon. With the performance that he had the last time out, let's stick him in there against Nick Bagley. Let's make it for the fucking featherweight championship. Let's have some fucking fun, Jack. Let's do it. That would be what a fight. What a fight that is.
Winner gets Joe Exotic to wrap the belt around them.
yeah.
Seen this?
No.
Oh, you should follow Nick Bagley. Joe Exotic has taken a liking to Nick Bagley, let's just say.
Oh my
it's
God.
liking all his photos, sending him DMs, and commenting oh, this guy's sexy.
That is class. Oh my God. The Tiger King himself. I think
sidetracked you again.
No, that's okay. Sidetrack Stevenson strikes again, but no, that was a good one. Yeah, interesting. I think so. I think it is Solomon King Simon. What do you guys think? Grinch's live reaction now.
I've just seen the Joe Exotic comments.
It's fucking wild. I think. I absolutely think Solomon Simon should be fighting for a title. Do I think it happens? I think it depends on. I think it could depend on what Harry Hardwick's crack is, and if he goes to Contender Series, if he's still around in Cage Warriors. But I'd love to see
an interim then or something.
Yeah, I think if Harry's gone to Contender Series, I think you do Solomon versus Nick Bagley for the vacant title. Yeah. That would make all the sense in the world for a headliner. The other one I could see happening, I feel like the lads who are selling loads of tickets are the likes of Kikyo and Jer and Max, but I don't know if they're headlining.
They're not really in a position definitely down the line they would be headlining Cage Warriors cards, but not right now. I
think we could see James Webb defending his title in the main event.
Good call. Another person that we talked about at the start of the podcast, Leon Hill, great win at welterweight. Is there an option there to put him in against Burlinson for the welterweight title? There's an option there to do that. Will it happen? I wouldn't be as confident, Caoilte, in that fight happening either. Leon might need one more at welterweight.
What do you think of Justin Burlinson calling out Rhys McKee for a rematch?
Oh, very interesting. Yeah. He's going to have to get himself into the UFC.
He wants it for Paris in the UFC, but I don't know. I wouldn't mind seeing a James Sheehan rematch with Justin Burns.
Oh no, I'd love to see that.
yeah.
I would. I don't know whether is James going to be ready for.
I don't know.
That's the only thing. But I think look, Jimbo Slice is the guy who headlines at the RDS. I think you can stick him in there with anybody and it'd be worthwhile. And obviously, if the rematch with Burlinson happened, I'd be all for that. He was winning the fight until he lost the fight really too. So a couple of adjustments there might see him get over the line this time. So interesting times. But nonetheless, lads, we're almost hitting the 2-hour mark here for the podcast. But I think this was a good one. This is a good long podcast. A really enjoyable interview, as I said, with Brian Moore. Thanks to Andy. Thanks to Caoilte. Thanks to everybody for listening. Like, subscribe, share the podcast. Help us grow. We appreciate you all. All is left for us to do right now is for Caoilte to see us out.
Gerard, Mokaev, agus slán go fóill.
Peace.